sometimes I get this from women often. They'll go, oh my gosh, my husband and I went on a keto diet and he like dropped 20 pounds and I gained 3 pounds. And
Yeah.
I'm furious.
Yeah.
And I think often when people go on a keto diet, they kind of fall into this trap of grabbing keto friendly things at the store, but they're very processed, very high in calories. And so it just is defeating what they're trying to do.
Hey everybody, Diane Gilman here, formerly known as the Queen of Jeans on QVC and HSN, but now the proud host of Too Young to Be Old, which I hope for all of you is forever. So let's go back to part of forever, because you feel like as a woman, you've lived your life, you've taken hormones for granted, and suddenly it ain't so take for granted. It is much more on and off, and what's happening next, and oh my God, what's happening, period. This is last in the series of before and after menopause. And this part of the series is devoted to diet. And I will tell you my own personal story before I introduce a guest to you who may be familiar, because I love working with her, Kimberly Verbeke. So when I went through menopause, it wasn't even polite to speak about it. The doctors were male. They were embarrassed. They didn't want to talk about it. I had to actually go to an anti-aging doctor to get hormones. That's crazy. But one thing for sure, they never spoke about diet. In the early to mid 1990s, there was no feeling of integration between diet management and menopause. And I gained almost 80 pounds in a year. I had no idea why. So we're going to go to Kimberly. And Kimberly, I will say that the one thing that happened to me was I had a double punch. I became a widow mid-menopause, and I am an emotional eater. So it became just take a pound of pasta, throw it in boiling water. 15 minutes later, take a can of red sauce, pour it over it, throw some cheese in it, glass of red wine. That is the solution that never tells you that that is all turning to sugar the minute your saliva touches it. I mean, I just ballooned in weight and it all went around the middle. So here's my question. Why, and why? Why does menopause do this to you? And does it do it to everybody? It took me a good 2 years after I plateaued at like 198 pounds for a 5'4" woman to come back down again. Why?
So you have multiple things in play. I get a lot of women that will say, oh my gosh, my metabolism has slowed down. And through science, we know that there's only a very slight change around 60. It's not significant.
Really?
Mm-hmm. It's not this huge shift in metabolism. But what we do see as we age is a big shift in our hormones and often a big shift in the amount of lean body mass that we have.
Oh, yeah.
And those are big factors in managing our weight, right? I talk about muscle a lot because I'm a big believer that staying active and keeping lean body mass on you keeps you young. But muscle is metabolically more active than fat.
Uh-huh.
So we burn more calories, right? The more muscle we have, the more calories we burn. And so it helps us stay leaner, as well as prioritizing protein in our diet, because protein requires more work from the body to break it down. It's actually only worth about 3 calories per gram, as opposed to, it has 4 calories per gram, but by the time we do the work to break it down, it's worth about 3 calories per gram. So gram for gram, protein is satiating. It helps us maintain muscle mass. It also, we get that metabolic burn with it. It helps rev, the metabolism. So prioritizing protein and maintaining your lean body mass is becomes huge as you age because
I just want to say, and I'm sorry that I did not introduce you
that's okay.
fully, but I'm terrified of these words. Kimberly is a naturopathic practitioner. Oh my God, I got it straight. Unbelievable. And so she looks at overall health, especially for females, in a 360-degree manner. Okay, the concept of protein leads me to a headline in the New York Times health section, which is 2025 keto diet, get rid of menopause systems, transform your life with reverse health keto. What is reverse health keto?
I'm not sure what they mean by that. I've never heard that term. I'm going to assume that they're saying reversing health issues that you have. Here's how I feel about diets, right? Keto can be great. It can also be tricky for people. Fat has the most calories per gram at 9. And so sometimes I get this from women often. They'll go, oh my gosh, my husband and I went on a keto diet and he like dropped 20 pounds and I gained 3 pounds. And
Yeah.
I'm furious.
Yep.
And I think often when people go on a keto diet, they kind of fall into this trap of grabbing keto friendly things at the store, but they're very processed, very high in calories. And so it just is defeating what they're trying to do.
But why do men lose, and men go through their own form of menopause, but of course, being men, they suffer less and they seem to, it takes longer for them to gain weight, while I just got this huge beach ball body, totally blown up beach ball body from right below my bust to the bend in my thighs. And wow, it was so unattractive and actually uncomfortable.
Sure. I would say, knowing that your husband passed away while you were going through menopause probably created a significant amount of hormone dysfunction, including some pretty
Oh,
cortisol spikes, right? And
okay.
when we have, too much or not enough cortisol and estrogen, we tend to put weight on in the stomach area. And that's not uncommon. When people go through very stressful periods, they'll go, oh my God, I'm gaining weight in my stomach. What's going on? And it's often cortisol related.
I had 4 things happen at once. My mother died. A year and a half later, my husband died. I was going through menopause and I started a new career on television
Yeah.
with this tremendous weight gain. And seeing yourself visually all the time is the equivalent of blaming yourself. And the deal is, I talk to younger women and I hear the same thing all the time. I'm not afraid of menopause. I'll tough it out until you start to go through it. And why should you tough it out?
Yeah.
There are at least partial solutions, and one of them has to be diet. Jennifer Aniston just hit 55 years old, basically lives on a keto diet, but she lives by the 80-20 standard, which is 80% of the time you toe the line with keto and you go by high protein, yada, yada. 20% of the time you eat whatever you want so you don't feel like you're being imprisoned by a condition. What do you think of that ratio?
I am a huge fan of that ratio.
Are you?
Yes, I use that with people a lot. I'm like, I believe in the 80-20 rule. And that being said, if you're fairly healthy, if you're really sick, you don't have as much slack, right? If you're pretty healthy, you got a little more slack. I think that moderation is magical in health.
Wow.
Not being extreme. I think that health does not lie in extremes. I think that's where we miss the boat.
Yeah.
Real extreme with things.
Do you feel that there is any particular diet advice you can give our community
Mm-hmm.
that is going to make, and I know that every single case of menopause is completely different,
Mm-hmm.
but any piece of overall advice that's going to help you get on a road to an easier and more Hi, it's Diane Gilman. Guess what? If you are in the same bucket I'm in, which is women over 50, and you're thinking to yourself, how do I find out the best products to use? Maybe you've heard me talk about Purity Woods, and maybe you've asked me, I don't know, Diane, why do you love it? I'll tell you. Your skin is your passport to your visual to the world. If your skin is glowy, if your skin is healthy, you just generally look younger and are treated as a more vibrant personality. Why do I like Purity Woods? 100% organic. There is so much pollution in the air, so much pollution even if I go to wash my face with tap water. So many chemicals. I truly appreciate products that not only feel pure, but the scent of Purity Woods is just unbelievably refreshing. So, you know what? Give it a try. Get a discount using the code in the caption, Purity Woods. I love these products, and two of my very favorites from Purity Woods are the makeup remover, the exfoliator, which is just sort of like magic. So, also, ladies, remember one more thing. As we age past 50, we do not turn over our skin cells as quickly as we did in our 20s, 30s, or 40s. You need not only a great makeup remover, but you need a great exfoliator to urge new skin cells to come to the fore. Purity Woods, they got it all. Comfortable post-menopausal life.
Absolutely.
Oh,
So,
what?
number one, prioritize your protein. Get 40 grams per meal.
What is that like? Give me an example.
I do sometimes in the morning for breakfast these little protein pancakes. It's 3 eggs, a half a cup of cottage cheese, and a half a cup of protein oats. Throw it in the blender till it's smooth, make little pancakes out of it. And I want to say that recipe has like 44 grams of protein in it. It's
I
significant. They're
I
delicious.
love that.
They're delicious.
Wow.
Um, that's an easy one. You know, it's hard if you don't plan. It's not hard if you do plan. You have to be cognizant of that number and make an effort to get it. I'm also a huge fan of using an essential amino acid product called Perfect Aminos. I start my morning with 2 scoops of those, and that gives me right off the bat the equivalent of eating about 60 grams of quality protein.
Gosh.
You know, it can be hard to hit your number. If you're trying to hit 1 gram of protein per ideal pound of body weight, I weigh 188. That's a lot of protein. So I work hard to plan my day so I know I'm getting adequate protein and I can maintain my lean body mass as I age.
Yeah.
I'm 48. Like, I am in the throes of perimenopause. My
Yeah.
hormones are shifting and doing crazy things, and I'm doing everything I can to keep them as happy and healthy as I possibly can.
Yeah, because you can really go into a whole state of imbalance with menopause, and it's very interesting. Tremendously popular and gorgeous models. One of them, Carolyn Murphy, was the face of Estee Lauder for years. And menopause hit her so hard that with weight gain, and she was one of the original super healthy, eat raw, eat right kind of models, California, of course. And she said it hit her like a ton of bricks. They tried everything, and I was actually shocked to see a picture of her. The other one was, and I'm not going to say the name right, Polina Parakovich.
Yes, yes.
Okay. And she was talking about how she had to stop working during menopause.
Yes.
So, when younger women say to me, like they're swaggering about it, I'm just going to tough it out. I think that toughing it out, if you think you're going to do it alone, you need a lot more knowledge to
Yeah.
make it right. And if I start eating a keto diet, what are going to be my most obvious, immediate benefits if I am peri? post or in the belly of the beast of menopause? What am I going to see, assuming I'm not getting sleep at night, assuming my hair is getting brittle and falling out, which it does, assuming my nails and my skin are dried out, and assuming that, terrifyingly, I'm gaining weight the way I gained weight.
You know, if someone's gaining a lot of weight, I'm probably not going to recommend a keto diet to them.
Why?
I'm going to say eat higher protein with moderate fat.
Because I thought keto was exactly that, high protein with almost no fat.
No, keto's very high fat.
Somebody told me, and it was a man, but a man at the age where, and what he was talking about made you think he was going through, well, when you think about menopause and how it's spelled, MENO, pause, we know they go through it.
Sure.
He'd say he was on a diet where he was eating a gigantic steak every night with tons of butter melted on top of it. And he was super healthy and losing weight.
And so he may have been eating a ribeye, which is a fattier steak. Add some butter. You know, I don't know what his macros were. He may have been keto, but he also may have been more on the high protein, moderate keto, moderate fat side. It's hard to know.
He loved the diet. I mean, eating a steak every night with tons of butter.
Sure.
He was just happy as a clam.
And a lot of people, if they're reducing like the refined carbohydrates and they're not getting an overabundance of carbohydrates, they'll start to feel this real cognitive lift, right? Just like your brain feels really on, like you're firing on all cylinders, and you tend to have real stable energy. When people are on a high carbohydrate diet, they tend to see more of...
Oh, totally, because it's like a sugar high.
Yes.
So you get all this energy and you think, this is really a good idea. This is great. And then that's why you crash at about 3:30 or 4 o'clock every day, right? Because you've had that for breakfast, and it's very easy to do a whole carb thing at breakfast. So simple, just with bread.
Yeah. And also, if you're seeing that afternoon crash, it's likely that your adrenals need a little TLC.
What does that mean?
So, right, we're not really taught what happens to our body as females. We have the only thing in the human body that atrophies, and that's the ovaries. When our ovaries atrophy, our adrenals take over a significant portion of our hormone production. If you're in the throes of menopause, your mom passes away, your husband passes away, and now you have this new job that's super stressful given this situation.
And very visual, obviously, television. Right. Yeah.
So I'm sure your adrenals were very stressed. And guess what they couldn't do? They couldn't take on that extra role of now helping out with hormone production. So that's where you see women feel even worse, because the adrenals are supposed to be able to take on that extra workload. But if we've got them really stressed out, it's hard for them to do that. So I'm a huge, huge fan of supporting your adrenals as you kind of move into your 40s and make sure that they're really robust and healthy. So they can take over that role. You can use adaptogens. You can use adrenal cortex.
This is me. What are adaptogens? What's adrenal cortex? Okay. I gotta know.
Adaptogens are herbs that literally adapt to supporting the body in areas where it needs support.
Wow. Like what?
Like ashwagandha, rhodiola, maca, things like that.
Okay.
And then adrenal cortex is literally just what it is. It's an adrenal gland that can be very supportive of our adrenals. Make sure you're getting a little pinch of salt under your tongue in the morning. Take some vitamin C. You can't make cortisol without sodium, and you can't make it without vitamin C. So doing little things that just support adrenal health can be really beneficial as we age.
We were talking right before this podcast about something that you and I, and I'm sure it's because we're women, have noticed on cable TV. There's a thing called alloy, and I was getting a overload of commercials about it all during the holiday season, but heavy duty in December. I don't see it at all anymore, but it was the first time I saw a medical system only for females, laser focused on every shade of menopause, because I feel like menopause really puts a shade on you. And it was dedicated to making that whole period of a woman's life easier. And then I didn't see it anymore, but you say you still do.
I see it on social media.
Oh, okay. I don't even see it on, but maybe I will now. We'll see. I had TikTok taken away. I'm so upset.
I'm sure
So
it'll come back.
maybe. But bottom line is that, to me, and I'm wondering if you agree, is the kind of care we need. We need something dedicated to us, because I feel very much like once you are no longer reproductive, you're sort of shoved aside. And even today, if I had, and obviously I had a huge hormone problem because I had hormone related breast cancer, I think I honestly, Kimberly, I could be wrong, but if I wanted to just walk myself back,
Mhm.
I would think that during menopause, and I'm alone and I was married for 20 years and I was very dedicated to this man, and it was really, really tragic for me, really for him. He passed from cancer also, but I think after he died, I didn't have the heart to go on cooking big meals in my kitchen. So I went to a lot of super processed foods. And then I think as I gained a ton of weight because I was really carbohydrate heavy in my diet, and a lot of it was super processed, that fat was storing those chemicals in my body from the super processing, and your body doesn't know what to do with it. Eventually, 20 years later, it turned into cancer. So, do you agree on my totally non-medical theory?
Well, there's science behind it. I mean,
Oh,
adipose
okay.
tissue is estrogenic, and it was probably an estrogen-driven breast cancer.
It was
Um,
by far.
and so you take the toxins and the excess estrogen, and boom, you've got a perfect storm, right, to create breast cancer.
Yeah. Now, just asking a very pointed question. And for anybody that is in the audience and hasn't gone through menopause yet, it is truly a huge, profound, and massive change in our lives as females. Do you believe, Kimberly, that we should be eating a very estrogen enriched diet?
It depends on the person, right?
Do you?
You need to measure things so you can manage them, right?
How?
You test your hormones so you know where they're at. Some people get very low in estrogen and need some estrogen support. Other people are estrogen dominant, and that's problematic. I'm a big fan of also eating your carbohydrates from whole food sources, right? Like a sweet potato. I'm a huge fan of sweet potatoes, yams. You can do a baked potato. You can do rice. You can do whatever suits you and makes you feel good.
That?
So I tend to be less of a fan of the more processed things are. I think we should have them more as our 20, right? In the 80-20 rule.
Okay.
I think the more whole things are, the more nutritious they are, and our body knows just what to do with that.
Yeah, I just went through, it was enough to go through a massive change to be single. It was enough to go through a massive change to have been in fashion like 30 years. And suddenly, yeah, you're in fashion, but you're really into television and communication and how you're going to sell your fashion. Went through so many frontiers
Yeah.
that I think, and I actually know, I just took estrogen for way too long. But now I'm even paranoid about having tofu. But let's say for the average woman who didn't, and I took hormone replacement therapy for like 10, 20 years too long. I mean, to me, it was the fountain of youth. And that's why I ask and actually I had no family history of cancer, so I had no predicate for any kind of paranoia.
And
But
remember,
do
most
go ahead.
hormone therapy is actually cancer protective. That whole women's health initiative has been dispelled for such a long time. It just takes a lot of time for that information to come through to the forefront. But in terms of things like estrogen, right? You can increase your fiber. Fiber is going to help detox excess estrogen. It's also great for your gut health. So if you're concerned that you're estrogen dominant, there are things you can take. Cruciferous vegetables. You can use a product called DIM, a supplement called DIM, which is the nutrients come from cruciferous vegetables.
Cruciferous vegetables. I never even heard that word before.
Broccoli, these hardier vegetables are cruciferous. But you can do a little sun fiber in your coffee in the morning. Boost that fiber intake because it will help detox excess estrogen.
I know is, to me, menopause was a huge mountain to climb and conquer. And it is almost impossible to get to the other side in one piece. You're going to be changed no matter what. And for me, being in a visual career suddenly, my hair had to look good. My hair hated menopause. Oh my God, it got so thin and so brittle that for a moment there, I really did comprehend what they always said, which was something I was never going to give into, which is older women, that equates to postmenopause, should cut their hair off. And so I would always see older women my mother was friends with or part of a club with or something, and they all had this short, kind of mannish looking hair. And I thought, I'm not doing that. And then the creams that I used, like La Mer, they weren't even making a dent in how dry my skin was. So if you had to, as kind of a last question, direct women to some form of a diet or key parts of that diet that are going to conquer those visual symptoms. And to me, there is nothing more terrifying, because I went through it with chemotherapy, than losing your hair or not being able to grow it. And actually, somebody said to me the other day, you know what? Your hair should be longer. Like in your youth, my hair was down to the middle of my back. Fashionable, but long. And I'm thinking to myself, it should, but could it? Could I actually be eating a diet? And I always think of eating something like avocados. My doctor, my GP, hates the idea of eating eggs. Hates it. Says, oh my God, you're going to get high blood pressure, high cholesterol, drop over.
I disagree.
Okay, so for hair, skin, nails, general, I don't know, they were aspects of my life I sort of took for granted. Like, I would say that is the biggest mindset with menopause. Everything you took for granted, a perfect body, great hair, great skin, it all starts to go wonky. So what is your final? That was a very scientific remark. What is your final piece of advice for redoing a diet that is making these changes that are so unwanted happen?
I would do high protein, moderate fat and carbs, kind of play with those numbers and see where you feel good, because we're
animal protein?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Red meat, ounce for ounce, is the most nutritious thing you can eat. And there's data to back that up. It's not my opinion. It's just very nutrient dense. Throw some collagen in your tea or coffee.
Yes. Yeah.
Do things that support the health of your overall body. If your estrogen's super low because you've gone through menopause, you could potentially benefit from a little estrogen, right? Because your skin's going to get dry and thin and saggy if you don't have any estrogen. Like, there are things that our hormones do for us that, besides just being sex hormones, right? If you don't have any testosterone or it's extremely low, you're going to have a real hard time maintaining lean body mass.
Yeah.
So I think that there's a role for bioidentical hormone replacement.
Oh, for sure.
And it's a conversation you have with whoever you're working with. I also love to use peptide bioregulators to help support adrenals and thyroid and metabolism.
What?
They're amazing. A doctor in Russia discovered them and clinically studied them for over 40 years. So tons of clinical data to back up what they do. They are very, very short chains of amino acids that support specific systems of the body and are phenomenal for repairing our repair systems.
How do we get them? What are they, and are they readily available? Do you get them from Whole Foods? Not the market, but, Whole Foods as opposed to processed.
Yes, I actually order them from Russia. They're just a tiny little supplement, but they're made over there. They come from the Institute of Peptide Bioregulators and Gerontology, and I have a pretty large community of geriatric people that I work with, and so many of them have just seen amazing results. I have a longevity protocol that I do with the peptide bioregulators, and they're
Okay, so can we get those from you, and we'll list them in our graphics when the show is over and published?
absolutely.
Oh my gosh, so much to do. Where am I going to begin? Bioregulators, proteins, I don't know. But I know one thing for sure. You don't have to tough it out alone with no help.
You're so
You
right.
need somebody like Kimberly Verbeke who can guide you through what I honestly think, Kimberly, is a lifetime maze
Yes.
of keeping and repairing and restoring and elevating our female health, wellness, and energy issues. And you know what? Here's the good news. There's people like Kimberly out there to help you and guide you. You don't have to suffer and suffer alone. And here's the bad news. Once you go through menopause, you're going to go through it for the rest of your life. So whether you are 80 like me or 48 like Kimberly, you are going through some form of this change. And guess what? The greatest news of all, you can do something about it through diet and supplements. You are not alone. Kimberly, thank you for being back. This was great. And I'm going to take your advice. I'm going to get those. What are they called?
They're called peptide bioregulators.
Peptide. I know the bioregulator part. I forgot about the peptide part. I'm going to get those peptide bioregulators from that source in Russia.
They're amazing.
You know what? If we didn't have women like you, we'd never have the impetus to grow older and think it could actually be an enriching part of your overall lifespan. Kimberly, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I can't say you make menopause more fun, but you definitely make it more reasonable to navigate. Thanks, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to Too Young to Be Old podcast. The episode may be over, but the fun doesn't have to stop here. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at The Diane Gilman, or visit our website, thedianegilman.com. If you like the show, leave us a rating or a review and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And until then, don't forget, age is just a number. Together, we'll prove that we are all too young to be old.